In today's video, we're going to dive into the riots that are gripping France. To truly understand the current situation, we must delve into their recent history of riots and acknowledge their role as a reoccurring element in France's social fabric. Brace yourselves as we explore the historical context and take a deeper look at what's causing this unrest. France has a turbulent history marked by significant moments of social upheaval. Riots have become an intrinsic part of the country's social fabric, signaling a collective frustration and a desire for change. These events have shaped French history and often serve as a catalyst for political and societal transformations. In 2005, the deaths of two teenage boys hiding from police sparked widespread unrest across the country, leading to a state of emergency. This moment highlighted deep-seated issues such as inequality, police violence, and discrimination faced by marginalized communities. More recently, the Yellow Vest community in 2018 and 2019 became a symbol of discontent with economic inequalities and dissatisfaction with President Macron's policies. Demonstrations escalated into violent clashes, revealing the stark divisions within French society. Protests against labor reforms have also played a significant role in recent history, with workers taking to the streets to fight for their rights. These movements have often culminated in intense clashes with law enforcement, leaving an indelible mark on the national consciousness. Now, the recurrence of riots in France highlights the complexities of its social fabric. These protests are not isolated incidents, but rather responses to deeply rooted issues such as economic disparities, social injustice, police violence, and discrimination. They represent the voices of those who feel marginalized and unheard. These riots are not mere acts of violence. Instead, they are expressions of discontent and a collective demand for change. They reflect an inherent tension between the principles of liberty, equality, and fraternity that form the foundation of the French Republic and the persistent challenges faced by its citizens. Understanding the historical context of riots in France helps us recognize the underlying issues that need to be addressed. It is a call for the government, institutions, and society as a whole to confront systemic problems, strive for justice, and create a more inclusive and equitable society. France has a rich history of social movements, where citizens have taken to the streets to challenge the status quo. These protests have played a vital role in shaping policies, fostering dialogue, and pushing for meaningful change. Now, let's shift our focus to the event that ignited the current wave of protests in France. Now, France was rocked by this wave of riots after a 17-year-old was shot by police near Paris on Tuesday. This tragic incident has sparked outrage, reigniting a debate on over-policing in marginalized communities, and has brought attention to the persistent issue of police violence. Footage captured by a passerby revealed a police officer shooting the teenager, who was of Algerian heritage, during a traffic stop in a Paris suburb. The video showed two officers standing on the driver's side of the car, with one discharging his gun despite not appearing to face any immediate threat. It is believed that the officer acted illegally in using his weapon. He is currently facing a formal investigation for voluntary homicide and has been placed in preliminary detention. This tragic event has evoked deep emotions and prompted widespread condemnation. Protesters have taken to the streets, carrying signs that read, "The police kill," while hundreds of government buildings have been damaged. The death of this 17-year-old taps into anger over racial bias and police violence in the country. Successive nights of violence across France and its overseas territories have led to a significant response from the French government. French President Emmanuel Macron, recognizing the gravity of the situation, has held an emergency meeting with ministers as he attempts to bridge divisions and unite the country in his second term. As protests continue to unfold, it's crucial to consider the broader implications and the potential impact on President Macron's leadership and the nation as a whole. It has not gone unnoticed that Macron attended an Elton John concert just one day after the events, while cars burned and buildings were defaced across the country. Critics argue that his action during this time of crisis raised questions about his commitment and understanding of the severity of the situation. To address the escalating unrest, French officials have launched a crackdown, mobilizing over 40,000 police officers to patrol cities across the country. Measures such as the deployment of security personnel, the ban on large-scale events, and the detention of individuals involved aim to restore order and ensure public safety. Protests, again, have not been limited to mainland France. Many French overseas territories have also witnessed violent demonstrations and clashes with law enforcement. These protests and the government's response raise important questions about the state of affairs in France. The recurring nature of these riots indicates deep-rooted issues such as racial discrimination, police brutality, and socioeconomic disparities that demand attention and systemic reform. Rights groups and international organizations, including Amnesty International and the United Nations, have called for addressing racism, discrimination, and excessive use of force by the police. They emphasize the importance of ensuring accountability, promoting non-discriminatory practices, and respecting the principles of legality and proportionality. As these protests continue to unfold, safety concerns arise and travel advisories have been issued by multiple countries. Public transportation disruptions and curfews in certain areas further complicate the situation. It's essential for anyone trying to travel to France to stay informed about the evolving situation. It must be stated again, the current protests in France are not isolated incidents, but rather part of a broader social and historical context. Understanding the recurring nature of riots and the underlying issues they represent is crucial for addressing systemic problems, promoting dialogue, and working towards a more just and inclusive society. Let us hope that these events serve as a catalyst for positive change and meaningful reforms. Thank you so much for watching. If you did like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. And if there's any other topics you'd like me to cover, please let me know down in the comments below. Thanks so much.